Today, other interesting business news, you have Hyundai to copy General Motors and give up to $7,500 credit for EVs. Now, this comes as the U.S. government has implemented more restrictions on which vehicles in the United States qualify for the federal tax credit. Now, there might be someone with a modicum of intelligence, the U.S. government, which I never thought I'd say on the show, but in terms of bolstering U.S. manufacturing and trying to be more independent, they have some new stipulations for EVs that say they have to have a certain components of the rare earth minerals, especially lithium-ion batteries, from either the United States or one of the allied countries. Now, this is a big conundrum in the automotive community because one of the biggest countries on the planet for lithium mining and processing is China. And when the United States abandoned Afghanistan, that is actually one of the largest mineral-rich resource areas on the planet. China, like the day after the U.S. abdicated from debatably the responsibilities after they left, China swooped in and they started to make business deals. So China is heavily invested in mining in that country right now. So the U.S. government said, well, we're put some stipulations here. So now all these EV companies are scrambling because a lot of the vehicles, they don't qualify under the current current credit allocation system. So in order to qualify, they are reworking the supply chain. They're going to try to get some allied resource-rich components as well as manufacturing more in the United States. But as they're scrambling, these car companies are trying to think, well, how do we entice consumers to buy? Because a lot of people are buying EVs not because they're reliable. They certainly aren't. Not because it's a good long-term investment. Hell no, it is not. It's the worst thing you can. It's akin to just throwing your money into a barrel of maybe a barrel of oil, an oil barrel filled with a little gasoline. Something to that akin, because again, it's like a smartphone. It'll go down in value. You can't repair it yourself. It's basically monopoly for the repair. Right to repair is basically non-existent. And yeah, once the battery goes bad, that's 10, 20, 30 grand for a battery. This was my little Honda Civic Si with 3 pedals, manual transmission, the only transmission that should be on any automotive vehicle. If anything, heaven forbid, goes wrong with my engine, which, statistically speaking, is not very high because it's a Japanese engineering and manufactured vehicle. But if anything were to happen, go get a replacement engine for, again, ICE engines or internal combustion engines at scrapyard or recycle plant. Maybe a couple $100, a couple $1,000, $2,000 to $3,000 at the most. Actually, I should see how much it would be to do an engine swap for a Civic Type R engine. But nevertheless, a lot more economical than replacing a whole battery, which is why I'm always pessimistic about the technology adoption rates and EVs. Now, it looks like General Motors was, I think, the first company to start bolstering these credits, where they're saying, hey, we know some of these vehicles no longer qualify with the current rules from the federal government. So since the feds aren't going to give you $7,500, we're going to give you a credit for that. Now, the issue is, the detriment of General Motors, one of them is they have a dealership network. So all the sales are indirect business models. So you don't buy anything from GM, you buy it from a GM authorized dealership. And dealerships are marking up these vehicles by thousands of dollars. So even if GM gives you a discount of $7,500, well, what if the dealership just marks it up by 10 grand? So at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much of an impact it will have on the actual end users, but the manufacturers are attempting to assist. Now, going to Hyundai, it looks like they're copying General Motors, going to be doing the same exact thing. They're going to also give up to $7,500 in, they call it in cash bonuses for electric vehicles in the U.S. because they want to keep their cars competitive with automakers qualifying for their tax credits under the hilariously, ironically named Inflation Reduction Act, which caused more inflation and was pretty much terrible in every way. Good rule of thumb is whatever the government's telling you something is, usually it's the antithesis, it's the opposite. Hence the Patriot Act, which many would say is the most unpatriotic thing ever passed since it really destroyed any semblance of privacy or freedom you really have. Now, they note Hyundai for specifically the vehicles that it will apply to include the Iconic 5, the Iconic 6, and the Kona Electric. And it says the month-long incentive will last through January 31st. And they say that Hyundai's EVs could not meet the requirements under the Clean Vehicle Tax Credit, which aims to encourage domestic production of EVs and components. So interestingly enough, that's really not a lot of time. I don't think I'd be very impressed if they could pivot their resource allocation for the components in mere weeks. Now, they also go on to say that, quote, without any operational EV factory in the U.S., Hyundai is building an EV plant in Georgia that could start assembly as soon as the end of 2024. They also know that Hyundai and the affiliate Kia sold a total of 69,259 battery-powered vehicles in the U.S. in 2023, And they're the second biggest EV manufacturer behind Tesla, which is one of those fascinating things where, anecdotally speaking, I actually do know some people buying Hyundais, but if you just ask the average person, I don't think anyone would think they're a bleeding edge EV manufacturer or they're such a large scale. But they really are. They're pumping out these things in massive volumes. Now, it'll be interesting to see, again, how much does this really push the needle in terms of sales. I suppose they do have a sense of urgency in terms of this. They're not saying this promo will go on for months or years. It's only a couple weeks that they're going to have this promo, apparently, which I was still astonished when I was looking at the actual dates. So it'll give you an incentive to go purchase a vehicle Q1, and especially obviously January. But yeah, I guess it might be a good way to boost sales. Because again, a lot of businesses, Q4 is the best one. They usually struggle with Q4 is the best one. Reverse that. And they say, how do we boost sales Q1 when most businesses and consumers are slowing down their sales until some of them get their tax credits or tax returns back. So it'd be interesting to see. Let me know in the comments. Did you realize or do you have any idea of how big EV manufacturer was for Hyundai? And would this compel you to buy their vehicle? Now, of course, keep in mind, it's an EV, so it'll depreciate like a brick, and it doesn't have 3 pedals. It has an automatic transmission. But I'd be interested. Would you buy it? And how much of that impact would it have to have that $7,500 tax credit? Is that enough to push the needle for you to still purchase it? Or is it still, a lot of people are concerned you can't depend on it as a daily driver. Well, let me know what you'd have to say. As always, it'd be fascinating to hear, or more accurately, read what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, I'm trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of January, so click that button. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leave me a comment and a like or even a thumbs down is a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.